Hello, everyone. It's Jay Burnham coming to you live from my studios, which is my office, for the Real Jay Burnham Show. Yeah! And the crowd goes wild. No, just kidding. They don't. They're probably just going, oh, what the hell are you doing? Shut up. Get to the point. So, guys, I want to know, are you leaving money on the table? Are you charging port to port, or are you leaving money on the table? Let's find out if you are. Okay, guys, today's episode, we're going to be talking about charging port to port. Now, when I first started moving, I had the consideration that many of you I know have, and that is you want to make it cheap so that you can get as many moves as you can and do it for the cheapest amount and just help as many people as you can. And that's awesome. That is really, truly awesome. But let's face it, the established moving companies that are large, they do it for they have a very successful system, which is they charge from the time that they leave their office to the time they come back to their office. And this is called port to port, right? And they charge for that. You look at any of the big companies, and that's what they do. They charge from port to port. Unless you're talking like van lines or something, then it's a whole different story. But we're talking for local moving, it's charged from the time that they leave their warehouse to the time they get back to their warehouse. And that's what every successful moving company is. But like you, I had the thought, man, I want to just do it. So what I did is I said, I want to save as much money for the customer as possible. I had the lowest rates. And not only did I have the lowest rates, I didn't start the clock until we actually arrived at the customer's location, and we ended the time when we drove away from the customer's location. So if it moved in 4 hours, that was okay. At the point we actually arrived in front of their office or home to the time we left, right? And that was the 4 hours that we charged for, right? But if it took me a half hour to get to there and then another half hour to get back, that's an extra hour that I'm paying my guys for that I'm not getting paid for. So that extra hour, if it's 2 or 3 guys, that's an hour time. That's an hour. That's 1 man hour for each guy. So let's just do the math on that. So I have 2 guys on the job. That's 2 man hours. So I'm paying for that hour. I'm paying, if I'm hypothetically, now my guys don't get paid this low, but if I were paying them $10 an hour, that's $20 that I have to pay out of my pocket every move. Now you add that to the amount of moves that you do in a week, a month, or a year, and you can see that money adds up very, very quickly. You're literally leaving thousands of dollars on the counter there. You're leaving it on the table, and you're walking away from it clean as could be. So successfully, what all the successful moving companies did is they charge from the time that they leave their office to the time they can get back, which is port to port. And I'm asking you, do you charge port to port for your local moves? Now, don't get me wrong. I know that some of you, like me, I live in Lansing. And around me, about an hour away, are several larger cities. So that it's still close enough that I can go and do moves in those cities, but it's far enough that it actually becomes cost prohibitive if I don't do something to retain that money. Now, doing those cities, I do charge from the time we get there to the time we get back. However, I also charge a travel charge, which is a 1 hour full charge of my moving services. So now that's 1 hour that I charge. So if I'm going from Lansing to Grand Rapids and I'm doing a local move in Grand Rapids, instead of my typical 3 hour minimum, which is about $300, I charge another hour on top of it, which is so that's $400 just for me to start. Now, why I do that is because I'm not charging port to port. I'm charging from the time we arrive, but I have to make up my money for that hour there and that hour back. So that's 2 man hours for each man. So if I got 2 guys on the truck, that's 4 man hours. Again, hypothetically, if I were paying $10 for each guy, that's $40 out of my pocket. But I charge a 1 hour fee on top of it, which is $100. So I pay the guys $40 and I pocket the rest. So I'm making up for the money that for the port to port. So I'm in essence charging port to port for those moves, even though I don't start the clock until I arrive at the location and then we end it when we drive off. Technically, by charging that 1 hour fee for that, I am still in essence making that port to port charge. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now let's say I were to go from Lansing to Detroit, which is an hour and a half to 2 hours away. What I would do then is I would charge a 2 hour minimum fee, and I would start doing those jobs in the Detroit area. Does that make sense? Now I could charge the 1 hour because I'd still be making money, but then I'm putting mileage and then gas and stuff, would eat into it, and I'm not making any money, and that would still have to come out of my pocket. So I would have to charge at least an hour and a half to 2 hour charge for me to do a move in Detroit. That said, it just becomes untenable to do moves in Detroit, although I could, and if I were to operate in Detroit, could be making a lot of money because there is a lot of moving going on in that area. And I would literally, what I wouldn't do the actual city. I would do like the suburbs, like Farmington Hills and Farmington and Bloomington and so on and so forth, where all the rich people are at. And I could be making a good chunk of change doing that. But I just want to say, do not leave money on the table. Charge from port to port. If you have to go, like I know there's one guy that's in our moving company insiders group. He's in Laramie, Wyoming, or something like, or Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the nearest city is about an hour away, which I believe is Fort Collins or even Denver. Now, if he were to go and do a move in those cities, what he should charge is, yeah, he could charge from the time he arrives, right? Which then the customer thinks, oh, he's not charging me, which is a good thing. But you add that 1 hour extra charge to that, and then you're still going to have enough money for the fuel and insurance, plus the guy's pay, etc., to get there and back. All right. So you're still not losing out on money, but by charging that extra, in essence, you're still doing the port to port. But when you're doing local moves, charge from the time you leave your office to the time you get back. If you are not, then you are leaving tremendous amounts of money on the table. And in fact, you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice, because at the end of the year, if you would add up all that money that you would have made, you could have got a good used truck for that amount. So do yourself a favor and charge port to port. Okay, guys, that's my video. It's not a long one. It's a very simple one, but I hope you got something from it. All right, guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you share this with all your family and friends. And, of course, subscribe to this channel. That's an order. What?